Final thoughts is I think that this is a great idea because I think it's relevant to the time where housing is incredibly expensive. Developers are not, we don't have enough housing being built. So maybe if the byproduct of this is that developers put much more effort into building new housing and creating good experiences in existing housing, and the reviews and transparencies give the power back to customers so they're not just going blindly into these apartments and like be like play a little more chicken with the real estate. You know what, your apartment has a 2.0, we're leaving that empty. Like you don't have, you're not making any money off this, that's it. And like you better improve that, or give us, like, if it's a 2.0, for example, this is how you can get power back. I'll give you a great example, watch this. So I there's a Hey, how's it going? Welcome to In the Future. We're actually trying something different, as you can see, right? It looks very different from our typical horizontal next to each other image. And today, actually, I don't know personally the topic, but Max brought something. So I'm looking forward to seeing what his idea is, and we're going to explore it together here in person.
I wouldn't say that I really know them that well either. We just randomly chose ones.
Well, then I guess we'll explore together.
From like whatever was written down over the last 10 years.
Yeah. Well, Max has a habit where he puts all these ideas into a notebook.
Do you? Is that your habit too?
Not the same way. My ideas aren't organized, but we have a shared document where we have a library of ideas. Pick from there.
No one can ever access those ideas.
No. They won't.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, not if you share it by accident. I don't think so.
It is interesting being just right next to each other recording this.
It's a little different, but it's good. I like it. I mean, this is usually what people don't see, because I feel like we hang out a lot in person and we have these types of conversations. They don't see.
We don't hang out enough, if you ask me.
I agree. This is true. But we make it happen remotely, which is why we have the show.
Okay, so the purpose here is to run through a couple of ideas that we haven't really prepared for in any way.
Not at all.
So I'm going to be reading this essentially for the first time.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, you ready for how many? What do you want to do this for? 30 minutes?
Probably 15.
15, 20?
Make it a nice, 15,
okay. So we're going to do it like, do you like this idea? Do you want to break it down in a future episode kind of thing?
Yeah,
okay.
I think
all right,
so.
Let's do it. All right. Here's the first one. Yep. Let's see. So let me just read this note real quick. Apartment real storage from tenants. Okay. I remember writing this down. So this is this says 2020. Actually, maybe I wrote this down a couple of years ago. But whenever you're looking for a new apartment, let's say, right? You're going to the lease office. They're showing you a handful of the apartments, like, hey, 7B. That's the one you just go. You see it, like, oh, okay, interesting kitchen. Yeah, we kind of like it. Yeah. And then, or you don't like it, but we're going to focus on the one that you like. But then you kind of you go and you put down the down payment, and you're ready to move in. But you have no idea what it's like to actually live in that apartment day in and day out. Like, let me give you a couple of examples. You do not know that at night there's a crazy kid living upstairs who just stomps around or runs around the entire apartment. Yeah. That's just going to be keeping you up.
Or somebody who's next door as well.
Somebody who's next door who smokes or throws really loud parties, let's say.
Defecates in the hallway.
This sounds like a personal experience that happened.
Well, I've seen some crazy stuff out there. Yeah.
And so I always thought that it would be really interesting to kind of hear from the tenant who's currently there or who just moved out, for them to share, like, yeah, it's a great apartment. We get a tremendous amount of sunlight at 2 p.m., but the bathtub in the water constantly backs up. And no matter how much they fix it, it just doesn't get fixed. So it's these little, or like the train comes around while you're having dinner and it rattles the apartment.
Yeah.
Like things you would want to know, but that the realtor would never really show you, right? They're conveniently scheduled it to avoid those times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So comment about just the nature of the idea as a whole. It's pretty interesting because it makes me feel like I wonder if the real estate business by design isolates tenants or potential renters and buyers from each other. By design, like there's really no connectivity. There's no connection. I rarely hear anybody say, or a realtor be like, this place is so great that the person who lives there right now will vouch for it. Like they'll tell you how amazing it is. Yeah, right. Like I don't feel like that typically happens unless real estate agents do that, but I doubt it.
Well, it hasn't. I mean, it hasn't happened in your experience. It hasn't happened in my experience.
No, not in New York. We live in the New York market, so you can imagine.
Yeah, but I mean, you have to wonder, like, what's the incentive for the person who's about to move out or has already left the premises? But
That's a good call. Yeah.
yeah.
What is Well, we actually did have an experience really quickly where we had to show our old previous apartment. I'm looking this way because my wife's still there. The previous apartment, and we actually opened the door for them and showed them around ourselves. And we
While you
did
still lived here.
while we still lived there. Like no real estate agent actually came and like was showing them around. So that to me was like a little bit of like we were able to connect for them, but we had no incentive. We could have told them whatever we wanted. We could have told them it's horrible to live here.
What's yeah. What I find interesting is, to your point, it kind of democratizes, like it takes all the power away from realtors and more kind of like peer-to-peer, renter-to-renter kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think an incentive has to be built in, but that can be taken care of, right?
Why isn't this more popular too, though? Because I've seen a website where they review not the same exact thing, but there is a website where they review landlords, and I feel like that isn't popular enough. Like I don't know if it's the way that website was executed, and I know it's not your idea that you're going.
It's interesting though. I haven't heard
but
of
it's in
that.
the same realm of like trying to communicate or trying to take power back to the renter and the buyer in some way, right? But giving them a voice to each other.
Yeah, and I mean, I would argue this is even better, right? Because how you deal with your landlord and that flexibility is important, but what you experience every single night that you live there and every single day for the next year, 2, 3, 4 years is very important.
So expand on your deal. Like, how are you bridging those two things?
So I wrote this down a while ago, but I actually think a company in New York City tried to do this. I have no idea how they're doing. Obviously not scaled enough for us to have heard about it.
Yeah, not a name that I've heard.
But I just find it very fascinating.
Is it a platform or is it like
it would obviously be two-party platform. I would have two-party, but eventually three. I would say it's the person who's looking to rent. There's the person who is leaving the apartment. And then I would also say this should be a tool in the tool belt of lease offices and like landlords.
I think they want to gate.
I think they do because it's not positioned in their favor at the moment.
That's what I mean, and I think they're very powerful. I think real estate companies.
But you can't stop this, you know.
No, I know. I guess
as a landlord.
Yeah, or to your point, you can't stop it. I think there's probably some powerful lawyers. There are definitely powerful people that can stop something like this from gaining traction to the best of their ability. However, I think if you do it right, the consumer, the renters, and the tenants could make this blow up. Like this could be like a Google review thing. Like should I move here? I'm gonna check your reviews because right now, at least in the world we live in, this is 2025 and winter. The real estate, the owners have the power, right? The real estate companies, corporations.
Sure.
I'm not even just talking about like regular owners. I'm talking about like people.
Because there's not enough places to live.
Yeah, there's like corporations that own buildings, and I feel like there's barely anything we can do about it. Like, what would I do? Like, if I want to go against that? Like, I'm angry at a landlord. Like, what am I going to do? Move out and then go to another potential bad landlord? So I like the idea of connecting and getting an idea. What you said democratizing, right?
It's shifting the power a little.
Shifting the power a little bit because now it's like, oh no, now you want to give a good experience to your tenants. You want to fix things as they break. You want to make sure that you're not.
That's exactly it, right? It's like, like there's this complaint, but the landlord is fantastic, where the maintenance department is great, and they come and they fix it, whatever you want.
Yeah.
But here are some things too. So I feel like it adds a little bit of transparency, and I think landlords would be okay with that because that's the truth. You do not want a annoyed new tenant who was not aware of the issue ahead of time, living there for the next year and potentially breaking their lease early because they're just like, well, I can't listen to trains shaking my walls whenever I'm trying to sleep. You know what I mean?
So then how do we connect it? So like, let's say I'm the renter moving to an apartment. What would your idea? Or is there nothing? Just this idea isn't explored enough. And we're here to build it.
I think the discussion here is: do we want to break it down on the next episode? Do we want to hear from our audience? Like, do they?
You don't want to start now because I really like. I actually feel.
I want to tease it. I don't.
Okay, because this one I feel strong about.
Yeah. You want to break it down? It's up to you.
A little bit.
You make the call because I have other ideas.
I'd like to go into this one a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. So let me.
You build it for me.
Okay, let's think through. So as obviously this needs to be owned by somebody, right? Like, so I'm thinking, I'll start with obviously the why is. There's a reason. There's a mission there, right?
Mm-hmm.
To democratize or shift the power away from the people who are owners, primarily not private owners, but more like corporate owners. Because I feel like private owners typically are maybe I'm giving them a little too much credit. I'm gonna say slightly better than corporate owners. Um,
I, I
maybe,
yeah.
but I guess
There's,
what I'm
there's
getting to
just like
is,
a positive way of looking at it, which
yeah,
is it makes the renter experience better.
yeah, as a whole, like, as a whole. So that's the mission. Now, from a business perspective, why? How am I going to monetize it? I can only think of a few things. Unfortunately, the first one, and I know it's not everybody's favorite, advertising, right?
That's
Just the easiest, kind of a cop out, sort of easiest. But would you rather? I'd rather keep the service free, get people involved and engaged, and build a user base. And honestly, maybe it would be realistically as a startup, if people find potential in this, like long term advertising revenue, it's worth investing in with no advertisement to build a user base. Like this idea would, if you're a startup out there and you're thinking about this, you're probably not going to make any revenue. I think for like a year, 2 years, 3 years, build a foundation, have an amazing, high quality, free experience, incentivize people to go on there. Because I think that's really where we need to go first. Like, we know that there's no revenue. Long term is probably ads or some sort of premium service that you provide, like premium access to either tenants or landlords. But at the beginning, how do we entice people to? I guess it's all marketing, right? It would just be a bunch of marketing campaigns to get
Are you
people
looking
to
for a
join.
response, or you're just brainstorming?
Both. I mean,
Okay.
I'm not asking directly, but if you have, I'm trying to think of
Okay.
myself.
Let me throw some thoughts in there.
How do we get people on the platform to start to review? Right, we'd have to pay people.
So let me ask you.
Yeah.
Let me kind of. But let's ponder on this question.
Yeah.
Is in theory is it possible that so for Airbnb, you as the house owner take photos of the house, the interior. You're essentially allowing the person who wants to stay there to look at the tour of the house without actually touring the house. Today, if you want to rent an apartment, you're not like, yeah, you're looking at some photos on Zillow, but you're still going in and you're you're doing in person, right? And that wastes time. That costs a lot of, like, that funnel is huge at the top, and then like only like one person ends up signing the lease, right? That's very expensive. And so today we're trying to bridge the gap with like AI tours, almost like somebody goes through with a camera and it kind of like that's also expensive to create, right? They do like 3D scan of the room,
but it's never sufficient. I feel like.
But that's the third party that somebody hires, or like the realtor does it. I almost feel like if you add transparency where the previous tenant says, like, here's the photos, here's the issues, here's the positive things, here's the opportunities that you should be aware of. If they add that, do you still need a physical tour? Or maybe for some people. But can I argue that 30% fewer people now require a tour, and they're like, I'll actually sign this today because I feel like I have enough interior knowledge about this apartment that I can make a confident move. And
there's
not
like a validation, right? It's like, hey, this has like
I don't have to think about it.
Yeah, I've got 5 stars, 3 tenants in the past. All of them get 5 stars. I think I'm kind of sold, and it looks nice and fun. I kind of get what you're saying. You're almost like, you can kind of pitch it to the list people who list it as like shrink the actual time to sell.
Yeah, exactly.
By a lot, right? But it's more. But then from like an owner's perspective, like what I keep thinking, glass half empty is.
That's because you're a pessimist.
No, everybody knows I'm very optimistic. But like, it's like a lot of these owners, these corporate owners or these private owners, it's like, now I got to do work though to like manage my property. I like got away with like just having a shit.
Well, here they have to manage it less. Technically, you're outsourcing to a third party like us, who are collecting the reviews and.
But to provide, but we're not as a platform that does curates these reviews or connects tenants. We're not providing property management, so that property can still be bad.
What,
like
define property management for me.
Property management would be taking out the garbage.
Oh yeah, of course not.
Lights,
no, we have nothing to do with it.
Right, but like those are things that add to the experience of living somewhere.
Yeah, but that happens. That happens after we take care of before you start living there. You're talking about things once you live there, right?
But that ultimately goes to a review, right? Because somebody who has experiences that is going to leave a bad review at some point and say, living here was bad. I mean, the garbage was never taken out. There was problems with the lights in the hallway.
Can I just make it like a quick thing?
Expensive for what it is.
I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. I find it so like when you go to a restaurant, do you leave like I feel like we don't often get survey cards, but when you do get a survey card, do you tell the truth or do you just try to be positive?
Oh, interesting. That's a
Like
great question. Yeah,
the
yeah,
service was
yeah.
bad, the drinks were kind of like
Wait, oh, if the service is actually bad?
lukewarm. Yeah, like if you
No, I'll
identify,
be honest. I'll be honest.
you'll be honest
Yeah,
on
yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure. If it was like whatever, like if it was bad, I'll be
You would
honest.
tell them.
Yeah, if it was like realistically like let's say at five, it was like a four. I'll give it a five. Like
Okay, okay.
I'll bring it up.
Let me give you an example. So like we went to a restaurant the other day. We were seated kind of like sort of by the entrance, and it was really cold in New York. And every time somebody opened the door, this like gust of wind would just pound us in the face.
Yeah,
Nobody sitting next to us, including us, said anything to the people working there.
they were just like
Yeah,
yeah,
actually, I did bring it up before we left. I was like, "You guys don't get like shiver your entire shift because you're standing at this door." He's like, yeah, yeah, like there's like a little wind tunnel here. The problem is most people don't say anything, and as a result, eventually more people in silence suffer through that experience, and over time, that restaurant goes out of business.
I see. No feedback was provided
Yeah,
to
and I
the
think that
chain.
it's a shame when people don't provide feedback either to like the landlord saying that the garbage never got taken out. You just won't live there. You will not recommend somebody else to live there either.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I think there's a built-in a built-in incentive for landlords to get this transparent feedback. Maybe not all of the feedback is public
yeah. Right.
for the future tenant. Maybe some of it is like, oh, private only, or like for landlord eyes only.
Yeah, yeah.
And while you're still living there, you can use it as a feedback form or like a feedback loop for your tenant, for your landlord. It kind of like documents things in an interesting way.
Almost like a not anonymous way of feedback, but it's yeah.
And it would, and like I almost see this as like 19 opportunity, like 19 comments left to landlord, 17 of them were fixed in a satisfactory way. So that tells you something as well as the next incoming
Yeah.
renter.
I think again I think the detractors will be just people like who pay other supers, like they're like, oh, that means I have to hire two supers rather than one, like so I can keep up a good experience, which I think is a
Which you
positive
should,
thing.
yeah.
Right? It's
Because then you could hire more. You could charge more
yeah, it's a
per month.
positive thing. I think they're just I guess when my whole point is like that group of, because they're a persona in this whole thing, is going to be the hardest to win over. The actual owners, the real estate, the people, the property owners. The easiest will be the customers, to bring them in. But we entice them by saying, hey, well, if you have great reviews, we're gonna, rather than spending 3 months to find a tenant, we found that everybody who's used us only takes about a month or 3 weeks, even on the best case
Yeah.
scenario.
Anytime you're saving time or money for anyone, it could be the landlord, it could be the renter or the new person looking to rent.
Yeah. That would be the pitch.
That's the benefit. Yeah.
That would be the bit. And for the customers, obviously, it's like we'd have to do some. Yeah, we'd have to get them on, build that foundation. I think if it's like a really nice designed website, people will come and not to get fancy with it or funky with it, but I mean, now that we're in the AI world, maybe just have like a bot that says, "Hey, tell me your address." Tell me the address you're looking into that unit. Oh, we have the whole historical. Yeah, that has about 5 reviews, and all are about an average of 4.9. Would you be interested in learning more?
In what you just said, it sparked this. I could kind of see the experience. Like I'm looking to rent, let's say that this like where you live, and yeah, kind of like that. It's kind of gated, and it says the previous tenant left 10 different comments. Create a free account to see them.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's it. Now you have someone who has a desire to view the information that the previous person left. Now we have to solve why would the previous person leave it. I almost view it as like it becoming like a community messaging board in a way for people who live in like building complexes.
Yeah, yeah.
Where they can say like almost band together in a way. I know we're bouncing around, but like you could almost band together in a way like, well, yeah, this property has become a little bit run down, and and it's like the voice of the people. It's like, well, we want we want the garbage cleaned up, right?
Yeah.
Like not enough is happening. Like people are littering everywhere.
I wonder if there's another party that could be included into that mix. I think it's super relevant. The reason I also like this idea because it's so relevant to now with like the housing crisis and like obviously I don't know if homes are super truly overvalued. Maybe the demand is there or like are people just spiking it up. But it would be nice to give some of that voice back and then force developers to be like, oh my gosh, like if we don't create nice housing or nice experiences, we need to build more homes with nice, like with that in mind, versus like let's build as many homes with like that are the sizes of shoe boxes
Yeah.
and cram as many people. So like I would love to drive an idea like this to give more power back. And when I mean like a third party, it's like who's involved in like home rental besides the tenant and the owners are probably people who do like professional services like plumbing, plumbers, and like wall people. I wonder if they can fit into this mix as well. But like on the side of the customers, like they can give reviews,
Something
like
interesting.
working with
Yeah.
owners. Like we have a contractor, or like let's say a plumber. Let's just something easy like a plumber, electrician. Electricians could give reviews of those landlords too, and say like, I worked with this guy. This guy, he ripped me off, and or I had a bad experience working on this apartment with these landlords, and I've heard from customers.
That one doesn't click for me as much, but I don't want to rule it out. I think
No,
it's interesting to introduce other parties to it.
there's something to explore there. It's just like it's a third party that typically is involved because when landlords need to fix something, they don't do it themselves. They hire another third party, like a plumber, electrician, or customers will call them, like tenants will call them to fix things. So yeah, that's more to explore there, but just like a third party uh, as part of the conversation. I'm just trying to see what's the differentiator for this platform. Like, because somebody might come up and say, "Well, I don't know. Why can't we just make a subreddit where people just talk about these apartments?" I think it's. I'm with you. I think it's a completely different.
I think it's an interesting way to MVP test it.
Could
Like
be.
like apartment six, like 8B.
But it's also disorganized, right? It's like a bunch
Yeah.
of posts. Like, how would you find? I would rather see it like a Zillow experience
Mhm.
where I type in the address,
And
or I
then
see
and then
a
it
map.
shows you like apartment 8H, apartment 8B,
Yeah.
and it kind of just pre like, oh,
And-
these
or
don't
street
these
easy,
don't
yeah.
have it. Like leave one now. Know somebody who wants to leave a review, blah blah.
Yeah,
or lived in this apartment.
Almost like and almost like just a carbon copy of Zillow
Yes.
with reviews rather than like how much it costs and stuff like that. But maybe it has similar info.
I think the founder of Zillow is no longer with Zillow.
Maybe we
If
should.
I
ask
remember
him
it correctly,
too.
maybe we should ask him.
Yeah, it's like, hey, you ever think about doing the other side of things?
I'm sure he would.
Yeah,
I'm sure he has. Yeah.
build a user base and think about the potential there is like I wonder how many users Zillow has, but like every market, the whole population, adult population.
Well, this is less Zillow and more Street Easy, right?
More street easy, yeah,
Because that's more like New York City apartments.
yeah. New York. I mean, this would be all over the U.S. So it would be because I wonder why people haven't kicked off this idea. Maybe it just doesn't sound lucrative, but if you got a huge user base, it's huge.
Yeah. I think in general, it's ideas that pick up traction are those where people really need the solution. I,
I also don't. I feel like
I also feel like people just don't know that they need. This is like they don't know that they need the solution, but they
Yeah.
have the problem of. Just to like throw something else in there, I remember having an idea probably around the same time.
Yeah.
Of well, you don't really know what it's like to like sleep here at night, and that's the
But how
time
do
of
you
the
do it? You
day that you
trial it?
really care about. I thought about. I remember I thought about this when all of those delivered to your door mattress companies like Casper and Layla were coming out. Remember those companies?
Yeah. Mattress. Yeah, the
Yeah.
mattress companies.
And I was like, well, you could just deliver one to the apartment, and then somebody spends the night there. They pay maybe like the $300 for that experience, which covers the cost of the mattress. And they can just actually see like, okay, this is what it would be like to sleep in here.
Oh, so you're saying like give? So it's almost like if I'm renting an apartment, maybe it's a real estate agent, and I say, hey, we also have if you don't want to commit fully, pay X amount of dollars for a couple. I guess
Man,
you still make money.
You can stay here 2 nights, or you can stay here 8 nights.
See if something you like.
Especially for a more expensive month. Like I feel like the more expensive the monthly price, like if it's a $6,000 apartment, you'd easily pay $300 for the mattress.
I think it would
to be there one night.
I think it needs to be more expensive to be lucrative because I think anybody who owns a property is just going to say, "Why am I going to? I'm going to lose 2 days of having prospects come see the apartment to have you sleep there who may not even fully commit." So like $300 is like it sounds okay, but like I feel like they would prefer to have like I don't know like 1,000 or something. Hey, pay 1,000. I think it would be. This sounds luxurious. I feel is what I'm saying.
I don't know.
It could be. It could
It'd
be.
be interesting to see that scale of
Yeah.
just like is it a
That,
$10,000 apartment, right? Like,
right.
or you have to put down a deposit.
Or how many people are just like, oh, I'm gonna just sign the you know how like
You
people
just have a bunch of
people who just
like
like
who just
want
want to
to
sleep
go.
in a place.
Yeah, like how
It's
many people go see
like why are you
apartment?
bringing candles in that bag?
There's people who go see tours of like these apartments in Manhattan that they definitely cannot afford,
Yeah,
and they act like, yeah, oh
yeah,
look, we're gonna look at this
yeah. Is
building.
this $5 million apartment
How
gonna
many?
go well with your $10,000 annual salary?
Yeah, exactly. There's people that do. They just wear a suit. They're like, oh, let's look. How much you say? Can we go for 2 million? And they fake the whole thing and just
Yeah.
leave and never come back just to see what it would be like.
But it is a huge commitment, just like to sign for. It's never just a year lease, right? It's always
Yeah.
like a 2 year lease, and then you end up staying for 3, 4, or 5.
I think this works really well. Nah, but then it's not the same. I was gonna say it works really well for new buildings. I was gonna say because they're all empty, and you're just like, hey, like you nothing to lose. Just everybody come and try the apartment, spend 2 3 nights. It's gonna cost you $500, like in a luxurious building, and you have a bunch of tenants that come and they try the building for. Like,
I think it works for any building because
Well-
any empty apartment.
Yeah, but the thing is, I feel like apartments in New York are usually going from an old tenant to a new tenant, and there's not a lot of empty time. That's the only thing I'd say. But yeah, I think we're like way above time that we were going to say we were going to do.
That's where I thought we were gonna end. Like 20. When you say 15 minutes, I think 25.
Usually
minutes.
that's typical.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to wrap it here then?
So what are your final thoughts on this?
Final thoughts is I think that this is a great idea because I think it's relevant to the time where housing is incredibly expensive. Developers are not, we don't have enough housing being built. So maybe if the byproduct of this is that developers put much more effort into building new housing and creating good experiences in existing housing, and the reviews and transparencies give the power back to customers so they're not just going blindly into these apartments and like be like play a little more chicken with the real estate. You know what, your apartment has a 2.0, we're leaving that empty. Like you don't have, you're not making any money off this, that's it.
Yeah.
And like you better improve that or give us like, if it's a 2.0 for example, this is how you can get power back. I'll give you a great example, watch this. So there's a great apartment, luxurious apartment, maybe typically is like, let's just give it a flat number of like 3K for the sake of this, 3K. And if I go to the apartment and I like it and I see it's got a 2.0, hopefully the idea is that everybody is put off by the 2.0 review, and the owner, or you have, I guess at that point you can haggle the price. Either the owner has no choice but to drop the price, or it's like, I love the apartment, but your reputation is terrible and awful. Can you drop it to 2,000 and I'll move in today in cash. So that's how we get power back as like a tenant. Be able to negotiate because nobody wants your 2.0 apartment. And you better do good when I move there, right?
I mean, this kind of sounds kind of bad, but like we could also just, because you said haggle, we could just basically tell the landlord, like, first of all, landlord, like, why is that still a term that we're using?
Medieval.
Yeah, it's like very feudal.
Yeah, feudal.
I would. It's almost like what's the word? Not embezzle. But like basically tell the landlord, listen.
I know the word.
What's the word?
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
Why are we forgetting the word? Like what the mafia does, right?
Yeah.
Extort.
Yeah, extort. We can extort him by basically saying like, listen, we know that it's a 2.0 because we see the reviews and we gave you access to the internal reviews so you can see what people are saying about you. We're not going to let you potential tenants see that if you pay us one flat fee, and that way. But you have to promise, though. You have to promise that you're actually going to fix these problems issues, that people have identified, or fix like 50% of them.
Yeah, fix the issues. Well, and then we'll hide the review.
Yeah. Oh, give them so make it public. Yeah, and that way, if you want it to go away, that's a good extort.
Yeah, 2.0. We would have to handle that on the consumer side or the visitor side, tenant side, because they might be like, why is the review hidden on this one? That's weird.
Yeah, why is this one like half fuzzy?
Yeah, because we can't put pending reviews because it actually has reviews. But like, to your point, like, you know how you start, you could highlight terrible on the homepage. Worst, worst. Hey, you're on the cover of our worst. You're on the top 5 of our worst landlords. You want
Do you want to slide to the bottom 10?
Yeah, because
so that people are not seeing
we're always
it?
gonna have somebody on that spotlight. So you
It's
don't
like-
want to.
and it's like it's almost like an interrogation, just like the light moves back and forth,
Yeah.
like an interrogation room. You want us to stop, don't
You
you?
don't want to be in the spotlight. You want to rent people. But all right,
I think we wrap it
we
here.
wrap it up. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this episode, and we'll catch you next time.
This is good.
Bye.